We are live. What's up, guys? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Just had to share a couple things real quick. Make sure that everybody knows. Everybody knows that I'm going live, so they get to enjoy it just as much as you guys do.
What's up, guys?
So,
welcome on into Fantasy Intervention.
Sorry to keep you guys waiting. There we go. Got to mute that. All right. So, anyways, guys, we got a big slate coming up this week. In fact, I'm running really behind. Because of the fact that once I started to dive into this slate on Thursday night, I know it's not sexy, but it's really interesting. It's actually probably one of my favorite slates overall for this entire season so far when it comes to the Monday night and the Thursday night slates. So I'm really excited to talk about this one. We have a bunch of great matchups that I think that we can exploit and win some big time money in DFS. However, before I go into that, I do want to give a huge shout out to our brand new sponsor, Statement Games. Do you guys like doing prop bets? I'm going to show you guys real quick. Before we dive into the DFS what this is all about. I'm so excited. I couldn't be more stoked for this, guys. It's a prop bets, essentially, kind of motivated lineup or website, and it's super easy to use. You go up and you hit create account. You literally can sign up on Facebook. You don't need a credit card, right? You don't need any kind of information on the back end. You just sign up, you get your account registered, right? And then you go to login. Now, they actually hooked me up. They hooked me up with my own contest this week, and I'm pretty stoked about it. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots matchup. So it's a big time matchup, and I'm really excited to actually get some prop bets in on this. So after you log in, after you go into this, see, come on, load, baby, load. Are we loaded? Man, my computer's so slow. I'm running like 10 streams right now. It's pretty nuts. But yeah, come on, baby, give it to me. Get me loaded. I'm going to let this load in the background, guys. I'm going to go back to this here in a little bit, but it's super easy. You just go to log in. You go to the Patriots and the Kansas City matchup, and then you select who you want to play. Hopefully this thing will load, and we can get back to it by the end of the episode. But that's my computer for you. I'm working off a laptop, trying to run like 70 tabs right now and a live stream. So get excited for that. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this DFS episode. We have the Broncos and the Jets on Thursday night, and I know that's an ugly matchup. This is not a matchup that I'm going to enjoy watching necessarily, but it is a matchup that we can make some money off of in DFS. The injuries are piling up for the Broncos. I mean, for the Jets as well, but the Broncos, man, it's brutal over there on offense. I mean, Sutton's out, right? On defense, you have Jarrell Casey out, and then now they got to put their tackle, Elijah Wilkinson, on IR. That's not good. He's only starting. Elijah Wilkinson's only starting because Juwan James is actually, hurt before the season got started. He had, I believe, an MCL or PCL injury. Now they got their third string free agent signing, DeMar Dotson. Or wait, Juwan James might have actually opted out. But either way, they got their third string free agent signing, DeMar Dotson, coming in to help them out. It's tough. I don't think it can get any worse. I mean, this offensive line has given up 13 sacks in the past 13 sacks and 29 quarterback hits in the past 2 games. That's absolutely brutal. I am not looking forward to watching, the Jets defense, who's okay at providing pressure onto the quarterback, go up against DeMar Dotson at the right tackle spot. So honestly, the Jets, they allowed the least amount of air yards per target with 5.8. while allowing actually the 8th most yards after the catch with 377. That resulted in them allowing the 11th most net yards gained per attempt. That's probably a result of them missing 47 tackles over their first 3 weeks. That is absolutely nuts. So in other words, they're pretty good at keeping the ball in front of them, but teams know that. So they take advantage of that. They go with the running back. They go with the tight end. They go with the slot receivers. They get these dump offs going, and then they break 20 tackles on the way to the end zone. So we're going to see a lot of different ways they utilize it. I mean, looking at it right now, up against the slot position, teams have completed 11 of the 13 attempts against Poole in man coverage, and Poole is their slot receiver. So Judy this week, Jerry motherfucking Judy, he only has 16. He only has 16 of his 134 snaps on the outside. All of his other snaps are coming in the slot. He only has 13 receptions so far and 24 targets. but he's 17th in yards after the catch. That's really impressive when you consider his only 13 receptions. And actually, he should have had 17. However, he did have 4 drops. Now, he is 12th in yards of separation per target in the NFL, which is extremely promising. I think he's going to spank Brian Poole, and he's going to be pulling them all up and down the field this week. I am assuming that Jerry Jeudy is going to have a huge, huge game. He is one of my favorite plays, especially for that captain position, right? He's cheaper than Noah Fant, right? He's cheaper than Sam Darnold. He's cheaper than Ripien. He's probably one of the best smash plays you can absolutely take in that slot position. I love Jerry Jeudy. He's a perfect price. It's so juicy. I love it. And yes, we talked about Ripien. I'm not 100% sure that's how you say it, but I'm assuming that is. I actually think that there's not a clear-cut chalk option for the captain spot. So Ripien could actually be that play. I mean, the New York Jets, like I said, they've been okay up against wide receiver, but it's primarily because of the yards after the catch. Meanwhile, you have Noah Fant, who's the tackle-breaking king, right? You have KJ Hamler, who's fast as hell, and then you have Jerry Jeudy, which we all know what he can do with his feet. He's absolutely a play for me in that captain spot. That's Ripien, that is. Looking at the slate, I noticed that they're kind of outpricing guys compared to what their normal actual output would be. They did price up Patrick, right? Tim Patrick, that is. So he's out of my range in a couple different lineups, but I kind of do like to play him in a few. I'm not throwing him in every single one, but I will throw him in a couple. Desir on the outside has been an absolute monster. And believe it or not, that he plays for the Jets. He's actually been really, really good. And then Austin over there, he's been solid. He hasn't even allowed a touchdown yet. So Patrick lined up on the right outside 50 times, on the left outside 46 times. I didn't really have a way to tell if he was going to end up, facing up against Desir or Austin. I think it's going to be pretty split on both sides. So, yeah, I don't think the measurements or metrics will help out on this one. I just think that he's going to have an okay game, which is cool for cash. I just would much rather play Hamler, and pivot over to him. I believe they're right around the same price. And free safety, Bradley McDougald, said that right, I'm pretty sure. He hasn't been good at all. The Jets have allowed 7 receptions of 20-plus yards in just 3 games. McDougald was credited with 4 of them. So he was in coverage on 4. It's no surprise either. I mean, he ran a 4.74. He's not athletic in any metric, whether that's agility, range, burst, or speed overall. So, yeah, I mean, McDougald's going to get punished, I think, this week up against Hamler. And I think Hamler is actually a really kind of just sneaky play. A lot of people know that he can go off, but are they going to, feel comfortable playing him after he kind of gave you a dud last week? I think the ownership's going to be a little bit off. I like Hamler a lot this week to smash in tournaments. Cash games, I'm not playing him, in as many. But I could see him walking out there, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches, and 100 yards. I like Hamler. When it comes to the other side, or when it comes to the other passing option, or receiving option, I should say, we have Marcus May out there in the strong safety spot, and he has been terrible, absolutely terrible. Teams really pick on him in the red zone, so it's kind of like the opposite of McDougald. But StatHead has him in coverage for 6 of the 21 red zone passing attempts, or actually completed passes, up against the Jets so far this season. That's almost, 35% of the time? That's crazy. He is getting targeted so often. That's nuts for me. It looks like he normally takes over against the tight end. He sees a little bit of coverage up against some of the bigger wide receivers and a couple up against the running back, but it was mainly looking like he was covering the tight end position. And we saw him give up 2 touchdowns, I believe, to Jordan Reed. He allowed 6 touchdowns for 49 yards. And 2 of those were 4-yard touchdowns. So I'm thinking with the 10 yards allowed per reception, if you take out those 2 touchdowns, Noah Fant is in a smash spot. I don't really even need to talk about him that much because I think that Noah Fant is an auto play in most of my lineups. Now, Nick Vannett and Alberto Okwuegbunam, I don't really love. They're off the table for me. I mean, I might plug butt. Get it? Plug butt. I might plug butt in a couple different lineups just to see. He saw 1 target at the goal line against Tennessee, but that's going to be like one of my sleeper guys if my roster's super, super top heavy. I'm not going to be playing him in a whole bunch of them. Side note, probably not going to have very many shares of Hamilton, to be honest with you. He saw, I believe, 12 snaps was last week, but I'm not really interested in him. Now, onto the running backs, they get tricky. You have Gordon over there smashing faces. Not really. I'm kind of just kidding. He hasn't actually been very efficient at all. And I don't understand what's going on over there. You have Melvin Gordon running for like 3 yards a carry or something like that. Then you have Freeman over there who got a shot in week 2 and he averages 5 yards per carry. Then he only gets 2 chances up against the Steelers, right? Or no, up against the Steelers was a 5 yards per carry. This past week was where he had 2 carries. And yeah, I don't understand it. Like, why aren't you feeding Freeman more often? He is the perfect back for the wide zone run scheme. Like, he is literally if you could build a perfect model or a perfect player for the wide zone run scheme, Devontae Freeman's it. He's fire, man. He has the speed necessary. He has a little bit of burst in him, and he's got the size. I love Freeman, and yet he's getting no love. He's getting no love at all. Come on, guys. Come on, Denver. Give Freeman a chance, man. Listen, they're bringing him back into pass block a lot. I noticed that. He is being asked to block a ton because that offensive line is so bad. So that probably has a big part to do with it. And it's kind of promising and it's kind of damning all at the same time because I believe he did get like 24. I think he got 24 snaps compared to Melvin Gordon's 39. So, yeah, I mean, he's at least getting on the field, which creates opportunity and makes for a great tournament play. But am I rolling him out there in every single lineup? No, I'm not. And Melvin Gordon, I'm not so much either. I mean, Melvin Gordon does have a chance to smash. The Jets have been getting gashed, but I don't really love either running back to be like, oh, you got to play him in every single lineup. On DraftKings, Gordon is actually the most expensive player on the slate. So, yeah, I don't love Gordon. I don't. I'm not a big fan of Gordon this week. Let me see if this is working yet. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to hop back over here, guys. We're going to briefly talk about my new sponsor. Oh, let me get him up on the screen. Oh, wrong one. Boom. Statement games, guys. It's super easy. You go when you sign up for an account. You don't need a credit card. You don't need any kind of payments or anything like that. You see IDP's happy hour up there. That's pretty cool. But you're going to want to go to... Where'd mine go? The Kansas City versus New England game. I don't know where mine went. Oh, well. This was a fail. Sorry, guys. We're going to hop back to the DFS show. All right. Back on to the DFS show. We have the other side with the Jets. And there's so many questions on this side. But let's start with the fact that Jarrell Casey, like we talked about earlier, he's a big deal that he's out right now. One guy who relieved him was Deshaun Williams. And honestly, I looked and I didn't really find much on Deshaun Williams. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent. He played like a game or two for Cincinnati. He's in the training camp for the Broncos in 2019, but he got activated because Draymond Jones actually had a PCL injury who we were talking about, before this. So anyways, it's not good. It's not a good situation at all for the Broncos. Broncos, I mean, they just allowed they just allowed 106 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries to the Steelers. They allowed Derrick Henry to get 111 yards on him. Dude, it's not going to be pretty for the Broncos. But yeah, and Ronald Jones kind of flopped. But I don't know, man. Like, what is Adam Gase going to do over there? What is he going to do? Is he going to try and force Kalen Ballage down our throats if it's like the last thing that he does? Right? I mean, he had 19 snaps and he did all right with it, right? I mean, outside of a busted hurdle, he looked pretty overall good, but that busted hurdle was actually really funny. But he had 5 receptions for 44 yards in the air. He had, two rushes on the ground for 8 yards. But I mean, that we all know how he should be used. That's how he should be used, is get him on the outside, get him in space, let him use that speed, let him use that burst. He's a burner type player. Get him into space. And we saw it with the Dolphins last year where they just tried to pound him, or 2 years ago, was it, where they just tried to pound him up the middle. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not how he, is best utilized. So I kind of like Ballage as a sneaky play. He's going to be super cheap. And I don't know. It's probably not how we're going to see him used, though. Gase has a way of fucking everything up. So I don't know if that's how we're going to see him used. But I like Kalen Ballage. This week is a sneaky tournament play. I might have him in 2 or 3 lineups. Same deal to an extent with P. Ryan, but not nearly as many. With Gore, Gore, I'm only playing in cash lineups, I think, this week. I might have 1 or 2 in tournaments, but he's more of a cash play for me. I think he's going to be safe. He's going to get the touches. The chance that he gets a touchdown is kind of low, but I might take that chance and play him in a couple different tournaments where, I could see more of a high-scoring game. Now, both tackles for the Jets are questionable. Fant missed last week with a concussion, and, Becton has some sort of injury. They were limited today. Half their roster is freaking limited. But is it Bradley Chubb time? Bradley Chubb hasn't had a sack yet. So I'm not really sure that that's the case. But if both are healthy, I kind of like Darnold. I don't like Darnold if they don't play. But the Broncos did give up some points to the quarterback. And I don't know, man. All 3 quarterbacks that they faced this year so far have had 38 attempts or more. Darnold hasn't seen more than 35 attempts. So that kind of scares me a little bit, especially with his efficiency and the fact that the secondary for the Broncos is actually really healthy, and that defensive line is not, or the defensive front 7. So, they might choose to run the ball a little bit more, but, if that offensive line is actually healthy, I think I'll invest. I mean, he actually has the 4th best completion percentage in the NFL with a clean pocket, which is pretty impressive. Like we talked about, the Broncos front 7 just isn't healthy, and Chubb doesn't even have a sack yet. So, I don't know, man. The Broncos as a whole have only pressured the quarterback on 19.5% of the dropbacks so far this year. That's good for 22nd in the NFL. I kind of like Sam Darnold this week, but Crowder kind of scares me a little bit. It's very questionable what they're going to do in the slot because Berrios is actually crushing it over there and doing very, very well. However, we know that Jamison Crowder is the superior wide receiver. However, they both take about 90% of their snaps in the slot. So I really if Crowder goes in and has to play somewhat on the outside, I don't know if he's that type of receiver. We saw last year where he was utilizing the outside, and he really did not do well. Majority of his production came while he was in the slot. So he kind of makes me a little bit nervous, which is why I'm going to be a little bit off Crowder, but he'll still probably be my most played wide receiver outside of Jerry Jeudy and maybe KJ Hamler. Now, the Broncos have actually struggled on the outside. And Callahan and those 2 safeties have not been good. They've given up 10 plays already of 10 or 20 or more yards so far this season. And the crazier part about it was 2 of the 3 were very low-scoring games. The other one was kind of average, but it wasn't a shootout. And they didn't have a bunch of garbage time because in that game, the Denver Broncos were actually losing. So you would think that if it was going to be a more competitive game, then there might have actually been a lot more plays of 20 yards or more. But yeah, they already have given up 10 plays of 20 yards or more, which I think is right around the 10th most in the league so far. But yeah, I'm playing Crowder. I'm a little bit nervous. I still feel like I can play Berrios, not as often as, of course, Crowder, but I think I can throw him in a few lineups. And then even Hogan, if he's healthy, should have some shots downfield. And we just saw they give up a ton of those big plays downfield. So yeah, I kind of like Hogan a little bit this week. And Josh Malone, if Hogan's out, he's worth a dabble. He's worth a little more than dabble if Hogan is out. If Hogan's in, maybe 1 or 2 lineups, but not a whole bunch more. Now, Herndon, as I mentioned, both Simmons and Jackson have allowed over a 99 passer rating when targeted. They've been giving up a ton of big plays. Herndon has a little over 5 targets per game so far. But in one of the games they face Indianapolis, who ranks number 1 up against the tight end. And then San Francisco is number 2 up against the tight end, who they faced 2 weeks ago. So this should be a lot better matchup, a lot more advantageous for Herndon. And if Jamison Crowder is in, then some of the pressure might be able to be taken off of Herndon to produce. So I really think this is kind of like a smash spot. I mean, this team just gave up 9 receptions on 11 yards for 9 receptions on 11 targets for 97 yards last week. And in week 1, they gave up 2 touchdowns to the tight end. So Herndon is one of my favorite players to just smash the button on the Jets side, primarily because he was the only one with a clear-cut picture. So I really like Herndon to smash in this matchup, very similar to, of course, the tight end on the other side with Noah Fant. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this DFS episode for me. Hope you guys learned something today. Appreciate you guys for coming in. And thank you all for letting me intervene with your fantasy football life. I'm out.